Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting episode of Mick Unplugged. And if you've ever listened to my show, you know that I started a podcast by actually not wanting to start a podcast. And one of the folks that I listened to that I understood the game from is our guest today. He went from knocking doors to building empires, turning real relationships into real revenue. As the voice behind Travis Makes Friends and Travis Makes Money, he sat with billionaires, celebs, and power players, all by mastering one skill: connection. So get ready to meet the relentless, the magnetic, the trailblazing, the guy that I said I can do this with. My guy, Mr. Travis Chappell. Travis, how you doing today, brother?
Doing really well, man. I appreciate the intro. Feeling the love, bro. So I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. I said I didn't want to start a podcast. Most everybody that follows knows the story. I didn't want to do it, but Les Brown, Robert Irvine, Damon John were all like, Mick, go do it. And I said, great. What's podcasting about? So I started following you so I understood the ropes a little bit. And that has continued to you just being someone that I consider kind of like my mentor in this podcasting game. So I owe you more than you'll ever know, bro.
I
I owe
appreciate
you
that,
more than
man.
you'll
Thanks.
ever know.
Hey, it's all you for actually putting in the work. You can only do so much for people, and it's always awesome to see when people actually go do the thing and see a lot of success with it. So congrats.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So, Trav, on the show, I talk about your because, that thing that's deeper than your why, that real purpose that drives you. So, if I were to say, Travis, bro, like today, what's your because? Why do you continue to do the things that you do with the relentless energy that you do it with?
Probably would have been a different answer had you asked me pre-kids, but I think everybody that has kids, man, it just flips your world upside down, teaches you how nothing is about you anymore, and you get to focus on other little human beings that you get to help shape and things. So now for me, it's way more about them than it is about me, and that is definitely a script that has been flipped since I started this thing back 7-8 years ago, however long it's been now. The kids have given me renewed purpose, renewed sense of why, a renewed a reason to keep doing this thing.
I love it, brother. I love it, man. And I'm kind of the same way when I had kids. Like I've always had this connection with my mom, brother, and sister, and they are and will always be my because. And then when you have kids, you start thinking about legacy, right?
Yeah.
You go from like doing to like, holy crap. Not not what are they gonna do for me, but what am I gonna do for them and what's gonna be said? How am I gonna be viewed in their lens? So talk a little bit about that flip that you're talking about, man. Like
Yeah.
just that moment when it's like, it's no longer me. I do have a legacy now.
Yeah, exactly, man. And then here's the thing. Every every kid goes through a transition where they eventually realize who their parents actually are. Meaning,
Yeah.
like, when they're kids, your parents are heroes. They exist in this kind of untouchable ether, that
Yeah.
you look at them as having all the answers. They're the ones who know everything and that you can go to with whatever you got. And then one day you become an adult, and at some point along the way, you start actually seeing your parents for who they are, the people who they actually are, their mistakes, their flaws, the decisions that they made in the past, where it's brought them to this time. And what what you're talking about when it comes to legacy is not necessarily to me like a dollar amount or a lifestyle. It's more that when that day comes for my kids, I just really want the difference between those two people in their minds to be really, really small.
Yeah.
Meaning like the person that they view me as, like the, superhero dad type of a person. I want that to be as close as possible to what reality is the day they
Mm,
realize who I actually am. And so that one piece, drives me forward in a lot of ways. And it just flipped, a few years ago. It's like when you're young and hungry and ambitious, you're doing everything almost with like a chip on your shoulder to prove to the world what you can offer, and you're just going constantly. And you have these massive dreams and goals. And then when I had kids, man, like it was almost like, why am I shooting for this thing? What is the purpose of doing this? Now I have a decision to make because whatever time I take away from spending time with my kids, it better be used for doing something important. It better be used for the correct thing, not just the for the sake of working. You know what I'm saying? Like now it's like whenever I say yes to an opportunity or say yes to a business or say yes to something in this world, I'm saying no to time with my kids. So it better be a hell yes. It better be like this is what I need to be doing, or else it does not make sense for me to take that time away from spending with them. I'd rather just hang out with them. So it just
Yeah.
it made me just second guess and ask deeper, better questions about how I was spending my time, what I was spending my time doing, and and if my and then really interrogate the goals that I had set up for myself and ask, are these goals still in line with the person who I am today? And sometimes they're not.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Travis, one of the things I've learned through you is the power of connection, right? You've said it a lot. It's been a saying that we all have probably heard a million times, but worth, your network is your net worth,
Mhm.
right? Like we've all heard that saying, but you actually put it into action. Talk to the listeners and viewers about how important connection really is, because to me, that's what drives you and propels you through the success that you've had.
Yeah, so for me, man, it was almost again kind of chip on my shoulder moment because I kind of grew up in this bubble, tight knit kind of community through my church, and when I left that world behind, I also was sort of starting my network from scratch.
Mm,
Nobody in that world really followed me. We had now completely different goals. We had completely different lifestyles, made different decisions, and even the people who I'm still cool with weren't going to be a part of the new world I was creating for myself, if that makes sense. It's like they were like, "Hey, you do you, Travis, but also we're not aligned with the same mission anymore. So good luck, and I'll text you on your birthday, and we're good." But then when I was getting into business, it was like it just made sense to me at the time that if you want to do something that you've never done with a skill set you've never acquired or knowledge that you've never known, then the fastest way to acquire all those things is to go get around people who have already done the thing that you're trying to do at the highest level possible.
mhm,
So it was more of like a personal mission for me when I started, just to like, I don't even know, like, I wanted to be successful in business. I wanted to have a successful podcast, whatever. But I didn't know a single like, I never even met a millionaire at that point in my life at 23, and so let alone had the ability to text one as a friend and get a text back and ask a question. I'd never even met, like, shook hands with one. So what do I know about that? So it was more of like a personal mission to say, if I want this result, I need to go get around people who are actively pursuing that same result and or have already accomplished the result that I'm trying to get to. And so that it became like a relentless pursuit to me to continue to level up those connections and figure out how to connect with those people. And that was kind of one of the big surprises to me, is that the things that I was learning or hearing at the time about connecting with people was definitely not how I was seeing all the most successful people do it. It's like, go to the chamber meetings and join the BNI chapter and do this thing and that thing. And you start going to those things, you start realizing that, like, oh, none of these people are where I want to be. Yet the people who are where I want to be, they all know each other. So they're doing it somehow. Like, they're not neglecting the activity. They're just doing it differently. So how do I start doing that? Which is what the show became at the time. At the time it was called Build Your Network. And it was really just the pursuit of trying to figure out the skill set and then implement it, also while getting those people on my show to download that information and also be able to connect with them afterwards. So the show kind of became this almost self-fulfilling prophecy where I was learning how to do it and I was able to implement what I was learning in real time to connect with those people to get them on the show and get more, information and better information over time. So yeah, it was like a deep kind of personal mission to me, which is why I think I took it so seriously.
no, I love it, and it shows, and one of the things that I learned from you, because believe it or not, aside from LinkedIn, until I started my podcast, I didn't have a social media account. I didn't have anything other than LinkedIn. I
Mm.
didn't have Facebook, I didn't have Instagram, I didn't have TikTok, X, none of that. So, when I saw you And forget the podcast and the clips. What I saw was authenticity. What I saw was the real Travis. And you had this clip that I'll never forget that says, as long as you are you and you commit to being you and you know who you are, good things will happen. Don't try to force it. And I think that's where people go wrong with connection and network is they try to force it. Talk to the listeners and viewers about how important it is to be authentic over everything.
To use the cliche here, real recognizes real. So what I notice, man, is like you get into some of these rooms, you get into some of these groups of people, and everybody's trying to connect, level up and talk to the people whose time is the most coveted at that particular event, whether it's backstage at a conference or in a meetup line somewhere, or name the type of event. They're trying to all connect with the same people. And what I would notice is that people who were on a similar level to the one that I was on, which was at the time like nothing, like complete beginner, not really
Mhm.
much to offer to the room, only could learn from the people that were there. I didn't have much to go off of. I didn't have a ton of value to give to everybody. I noticed they were always trying to posture, and it confused the hell out of me, man. Because I'd be, I had the opportunity at the time where I had gotten to know a couple people really really well in that space, paid them some money for some coaching, got around them, offered value in exchange. Like at the time, it was a lot of work for me to be able to provide value, but I knew one thing: I knew how to sell. I came from door to door sales. I was like, I know how to sell. So there's one guy in particular who was selling journals at events. Like, so he wouldn't get paid a speaking fee, but he would say like, I'll come speak for you for free if you let me sell my journals, like, in an expo booth or whatever. And he didn't have anybody to work the booth. So I was like, I'll just volunteer and work it for free for you for 3 full days, which at the time, like 3 full days of my time working a booth at an event like that, I knew how much money I could make generating sales for like the products I used to sell. So
Mm.
it was significant effort from a skill that I had built up to that time, that I was giving away for free. But what allowed me to do is get around that person and then listen to the conversations of people that would come up to the booth to like shake his hand, get him to sign something, take a picture with them. And it amazed me, man, how many people would come up to that conversation. They would talk 98% of the time trying to impress the person that they're talking to. What they don't realize is that that person has unlimited access to a multitude of people who are
Everything, right.
wildly more successful than you are. Like you're not going to say anything that he hasn't heard in that 3 minutes that you're taking time to do. So all you're doing is posturing yourself to be better than you actually are, which those people, again, real recognizes real. So that person is going to see through all of that anyway. And
Yeah.
then now you're just a number. Now you're just another person that they connected with at a conference who took a picture. You made zero impact. You learned nothing. You asked zero questions, and you walked away with no relationship. And I saw people do this like time and time and time and time again. And so when I would get in those rooms, man, I just was me. And I would be honest with people, like, I'm starting out. I'm at this, even for different rooms that I paid to be in, like masterminds or small groups or anything where I would put an investment down to get in the room. It was always a stretch. And I knew going into it that I was like, hey, look, I would tell people, I was like, look, I'm probably the brokest person in this room. Immediately sheds all form of ego when you start off with a line like that, where people are like, "Oh, okay, well, see how we can help you." But they want to help. That's the thing, man, is like people want to be helpful. They want to be useful. It's just if you're putting on this position or posturing yourself as somebody who doesn't need the help, then they can't help you. And then again, you leave the situation thinking that, talking to people is a waste of time because you didn't get anything out of it. It's like, well, you weren't even open to receiving anything because you were trying to make yourself sound awesome when you're objectively not awesome yet. Like
Right.
at least at that thing that you're trying to be awesome at, right? So,
Yep.
not to say that you're not worth anything or you're not awesome as a person. I'm sure that's probably all true. But if you come into the situation with this high ego and you're constantly posturing and positioning yourself to be this person that you are not yet, it's first of all not going to allow you to learn anything, and then second of all, that person's going to see right through it because they were just backstage with all the other people who are actually awesome at what they do, and that's not the type of communication that they have with each other. They're all eager and willing and open to learn from each other. That's why they're in the position that they're in. So I saw that early on, man. It was a big blessing in disguise because it just taught me that authenticity was going to be rewarded. I'm not here to make myself sound better than I am. I'm just here to learn as much as I possibly can and see if there's any potential way that I could bring some sort of value to this relationship.
Man, that is amazing, and I wanna go deeper into something you just said because it and this is for the viewers and listeners. Travis and I are gonna have a real conversation because success doesn't happen overnight, but I'm a whole heart believer that success does leave clues.
Mhm.
And those clues start by investing in yourself. So you heard Travis talking about going to masterminds and going to these events and sometimes even paying the extra for whatever the VIP or high ticket offer is so you can get some type of access. I think where most people, Travis, fail when they try to get the overnight success is they really don't invest in themselves,
Yeah.
right? They look at paying money to go to an event, joining a mastermind, doing a one-on-one collab with Travis. They think that that money goes to the event holder or to the influencer's pocket, but what you are actually gaining are clues. And I tell people all the time, Trav, if you really want to understand how success works, you've got to be willing to invest in yourself. Because if you're not, I can promise you it's not going to happen. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but it's going to take much longer and you're going to give up before it actually even gets there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely going to take more time. That's the thing, is that once you adopt the identity of somebody who values time over anything else, you start realizing that a lot of these things are a bargain. It's like, it's okay, name the number, 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, 10 grand, whatever sounds like a lot to you. All I would do is ask people what their goals are. Like
Hmm.
they would look at investing in something. It's like, yeah, but it's 10 grand. Okay. And I was just like, okay, but you just told me that you want this thing that you're doing to make you $1 million next year. What is 10 grand compared to $1 million? How long is it going to take you to fail and fall on your face and figure it out on your own when you could just pay 10 grand and learn all of the things that that person learned over 20 years of doing the thing that you're trying to do? And
Right.
you're holding the money like the money is the most valuable piece. It's not. Your time is the most valuable piece. And like you said, it's not even just a matter of like, oh, I can figure it out, because you probably can figure it out. Will it take you way longer? Sure. But then you also are throwing in that other variable of like, if it does take you that much longer and you're putting in this work in the meantime and failing this much and falling on your face this much, how likely are you going to how likely is it going to be that you're actually going to stick with the thing that you're trying to see success at for the duration of time that's required in order for you to see the success anyway? Can you do it? Sure. Should you do it? Probably not. And if your risk tolerance is extremely low, like you're in a position where you got three kids, you're 48 years old, you're switching careers, there is absolutely extreme value in paying to cut the line and learn from somebody who's been there, done that, bought 10 t-shirts, and can help you avoid the mistakes that they made. It's like
Yeah.
it just it doesn't even make sense from a financial standpoint sometimes. And yeah, is it a risk? Sure, but you are in the risk business. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing anything entrepreneurial, you're by definition you're taking more risk than somebody who's an employee. And if that's not what you want to do, then maybe just stick to being an employee. And by the way, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, like, I encourage people away from entrepreneurship as often as I can, because it's not for everybody, and it is much more difficult to see a path to success in that area. If you have a high value skill like sales or marketing or something like that, you could probably make more money in a shorter period of time by just being an employee somewhere and being the best employee that that person has. So I'm not knocking that path. I'm just saying that if you have this goal and you want this thing, then you have to be willing to take the action of somebody who has achieved that thing, or you will not get to that point. You have to take the action of the future self now, or you can't create that future self.
Amen to that, bro. Amen to that. I was literally having this conversation with someone 2 days ago. And I said, aside from a family heir, I don't know a single entrepreneur that didn't go through the dirt, the grind, the mud, right? I really don't. Now, sometimes that dirt, grind, mud was 6 months, sometimes it's 6 years, but we all go through it. And to your point, sometimes if your skill set isn't true visionary and execution, it's okay to be a CMO.
Mhm.
It's okay to be the chief sales officer
Yep.
of a company, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that. And I think sometimes in society and what we see on social media is we assume that everyone has it figured out, and that's far from the case. I mean, I would say, Travis, I'm still trying to figure some things out, right? Like I'm
Absolutely.
always going to be learning something and getting frustrated about, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, or how do I overcome this? But I also am prepared for it, you know?
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, and I just had this conversation with a buddy recently who had a tough time in business, crazy bunch of stuff outside of his control happened, bunch of lawsuits, had to file bankruptcy, and he's right now working like 2 or 3 different sales gigs. But he's
Mm,
making his business at even when his business was doing well, it was doing, 7 figures, 1.5, 1.6 million a year. By all objective standards, like that's the dream that most people are looking for. I want $1 million
mhm,
business. He makes
mhm.
more in take home personal income now as a sales guy for a couple different companies than he ever did running his business, even
Right.
though it was generating 1.5, $1.6 million in top line revenue. Like the
Yeah.
numbers that you see online that glorify entrepreneurship, typically they're from people who are trying to sell you some sort of entrepreneurship course,
Yeah.
and they're not being honest about what they actually make on the money that they say they make. You're seeing
Nah.
top line revenue and top line revenue only. You don't know exactly what that person's taking home, and odds are, as an employee, you could probably make more money, personal take home income. So like that's why I say you have to examine the goals. You have to examine the dream and ask yourself, is this something that I truly want? Because if it is something that you truly want, then you're not ever going to be able to be an employee, right? Like you're not going to be happy doing that path, and you're going to have to take the entrepreneurship path. But if you're going to take that path, just understand it comes with a different risk profile. And if you want to be successful doing that thing, you got to be willing to do the things that employee mindset people are not going to be willing to do. So it's take your pick. You know what I mean? You don't have to do one path or the other path, and one of them's not better than the other one. It's different for everybody, but choose wisely because if you take that mindset into the entrepreneurial path, it's just probably not going to work out super well for you.
Amen, brother. Amen. So, Travis, I hate saying the word expert, but I get to say it with you. You are the podcast expert because you figured it out. You figured it out on multiple levels too. And again, I want to talk to current podcasters, future podcasters right now because you are the expert of leveraging podcasting for your brand growth. Right? Let's talk to the viewers and listeners about how important understanding the brand is first and foremost when it comes to podcasting, because that's what, again, when I learned from you, that's what I took, right? Like you're creating this brand, your messaging has to be the same, right? You have to know who your audience is and don't try to be the podcast for everyone, right? Like if you know who you are, you'll grow much faster than trying to say, I just want this generic, we'll talk about whatever. People don't listen to those, unfortunately. So talk about the brand of podcasting a little bit, bro.
Yeah, if you're going to talk to everybody, you're going to talk to nobody, and you better be really sure that you just enjoy it and you can label it as a hobby. And that's totally fine. Do that, totally fine. But if you're wanting something that has impact on your business or on your branding or on your ability to generate revenue, then it's got to be something that goes in line with the things that you're doing inside of your business. So the highest leverage impact point that I ever recognized was bringing on high value guests to the show because I realized that it was the same idea of the thing that Nike invests tens of billions of dollars a year in, every single year for the last 40 freaking years, which is endorsements. There's a reason that they invest that much money in endorsements. It's because they want you to have the association of their brand in your mind with greatness when it comes to athletic performance. Like when like Nike wasn't always a golf brand. They're huge in golf now, but when they started, they got one really key endorsement from a guy named Tiger Woods. And there's one clip that's like solidified in golf history that really like exploded Nike onto the golf scene, which was Tiger Woods at the Masters. There's a chip in off of the green, and it was almost like the Nike gods, like Greek gods of Nike, were just engineering this moment to last in people's minds. But the ball literally hung on the edge of the cup for like a half a second, like way too long. And everybody on the edge of their seats looking at the ball, like trying to see if it's going to go in. And what's the picture? Everybody's minds it like that Nike swoosh was just staring at the camera right in the face as it hung on the edge of the cup and the world was watching. It fell in the cup. That solidified in everybody's minds forever that like Nike is a golf brand. So when I'm looking at brands online, like it used to be PR, right? It used to be like featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., and TechCrunch and Business Insider and all these other things. And those things are still helpful. However, PR has kind of become a little bit of a cluster in the last decade, decade and a half, where there's just a lot of ways to be able to get the logo on your website that don't actually really mean anything. So that became kind of bottom of the barrel barrier to entry. So if you're looking at two, landing pages or two websites, and one of them has zero of those endorsements and another one has 15 publications they've been featured in, you're probably going to trust the one that has more publications, obviously. However, like I said, that's become more the barrier to entry. So what I started to realize is that when I would put those there, I didn't get as much impact as when people saw that I was sharing the stage, quote unquote, on my podcast with names that they knew, liked, trust, recognized. They've already read 7 of their books. It's like, I don't know who this Travis guy is, but if this person feels that it's a good use of their time to be spending time with Travis, then it's probably a good use of my time. And so you start winning out over those other things where like people are looking at my services and comparing it to a competitor. It's like we might both have all the PR pieces there. But if you come to my site or my landing page and you see 17 people whose content you've been following online for the past decade and you didn't know who I was before that, you're instantly just going to be like, this guy must know what he's doing, or these people wouldn't be spending some of their coveted time with him. So I started noticing early on that when it came to like brand perception and the highest leverage impact in my business, it was sharing the stage with those types of people. And if you're waiting for the magic moment where you just get invited to speak on stage and actually share the stage with them, it's probably not going to happen. So what I did is I just created my own stage and invited those people on, and then I was able to create my own perception arc in the minds of the people that I was trying to talk to the most.
Bro, we have so much in common, man. Like so much. Again, that's very similar blueprint to me and what I've done with my brand and the book and everything I have going on. But I want to give you the floor, man, because one of the most powerful tools and resources that I've ever seen specific to the podcast space is your product, Guestio. Like, talk to us a little bit about that, your mindset of creating it, the problem you were solving by creating it, and just what the solution does for podcasters.
So funny enough, man, I actually just sold Guestio 2 months ago. So it is no longer my creation. It's under a brand called Speaker Hub. They do the same thing for speakers. So they acquired Guestio to take care of the podcasting space. But yeah, it's essentially
So Ron,
yeah, yeah,
Ron Stork,
yep.
yeah, I know Ron.
Yep.
Cool.
Ron acquired it. Yeah. And he's doing a great job with it. So definitely go check out some of the stuff that they're working on. But yeah, it was essentially that, man. It was like, how do I shortcut? The question I always got was, how do you go get these guests? And the answer is a lot of hard work and persistence over a long period of time, which is not the answer that most people like to hear.
Mhm.
So I just created the shortcut, which is essentially instead of paying a speaking fee to have this person come speak at your stage, which might be 150 grand, you can pay them $1,000 to be on your podcast and you can share the stage with them on the podcast. So it just kind of became like a shortcut to the booking process for guests and then also the show side as well, getting on top ranked podcasts as well.
That's awesome, dude. So I didn't know that. I don't know why I didn't know that. Like, I know Ron, he didn't even tell me about it. That's interesting. Talked to Ron like 3 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
you gotta ask them about it.
So Trav, man, let's talk about what you have going on now. Like, you always have things going on. So let's talk about Travis Chappell a little bit and the things that you're doing.
Yeah, man. So kind of taking a breather after selling the company, just trying to figure out what I want to do next.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, we've just been really hitting the gas on the podcast. So we're increasing Travis Makes Money to 2 releases a day now. So we're doing like 60 episodes a month on that show and just really trying to increase sponsorship revenue and monetization on that show. So we've gotten to a point now where it's doing, this year we'll do probably north of 500,000 on like sponsorship revenue alone, which was always the goal for me. I always wanted I want to be a podcaster and not have to do
Mhm.
like a bunch of other things. But also, I still like podcasting a lot. So we're also doing, podcast and content coaching and consulting a little bit on the side as well. So anybody that wants us to take a peek at their brand or work with us in a way to help them set up their business for success, you can go to travischappell.com/coaching. There's an application there to apply to work with us on that end. Typically working with established businesses, 7 8 figure founders who are really just missing the content piece, because that's where we have the highest leverage impact there. And obviously we don't, been doing this for a long time, so we're not super cheap on that, but we also can drive impact. So we do
Yeah.
some work over there as well. So now just trying to think about what's next, man. Like what do I really want to sink my teeth into?
I love it, and I'm gonna say what Travis didn't say. He tried to be polite there, but Travis, I do coaching as well too. What he's saying is he's gonna make sure your investment is also worth his time.
That's exactly right.
So, yeah, I was picking up what you were putting down, brother, because I literally have to do the same thing, right? But again, if you want Travis's commitment, you also have to be committed. But I will personally tell you and vouch that Travis is not only the guy, but he's just a great human, right? Like Travis genuinely cares about his clients. He cares about his network. He cares about his communities. And Travis, man, I just want to applaud you for being real, because real does recognize real, brother.
I appreciate it, dude. Thanks so much for having me on the show and asking some really good questions, man. It's always a good time.
You got it. Where can people find and follow you?
TravisChappell.com is kind of like the hub. But if I'm going to send you to one place in particular, we just launched a brand new long form YouTube channel that is more of the hobby on my end, where like Travis Makes Money, the podcast is the one that's been around for a long time. That one does well and is totally fine. But Travis Makes Friends is kind of like the new hobby podcast of mine. And so we're trying to just get more attention over there. So that's at Travis Chappell Podcast on YouTube. And we just started that a month or two ago, but starting from scratch, man. So it's an interesting feeling to be doing this for as long as we've been doing it and starting from scratch. So if you want to go somewhere for like 60 to 90 minute conversations about comedy, health, fitness, some business and entrepreneurship as well, then at Travis Chappell Podcast on YouTube.
I love it, man. I'll make sure we have links to all of that. Again, thank you for being a great friend. Thank you for being the person that you are. I owe you more than you'll ever know, bro.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot. It means a lot to me.
You you got it. And for all the viewers and listeners, remember your because is your superpower. Go unleash it.